Remember that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair.
Honourable Shane Jones.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. I shall endeavour to bring some relevance back to the debate after the contribution, sir. Coming from an area where the tail of the fish is very narrow, sir, we only have the sand dunes of the 90-mile beach to compare against those alpine, majestic, free rider gifts that we're giving to a narrow caste of New Zealanders in the South Island, sir. So naturally, as my colleagues have said, we do not support this bill, but I'm going to direct onto page 16, Jackie Dean and her colleagues, section 23J. Sir, now those who have been concerned that the elements that we're arguing for, sir, on our side of the House, which we think gives a fair return in terms of the owner of the property right, i.e. the great unwashed, otherwise known as the Crown, or otherwise known as the rats and mice of the New Zealand society, i.e. the members of Parliament, we their proxies. So we have been not only concerned about the inadequacy of that, but so it's difficult. There's two areas I want to focus on. So it's very difficult for an upset or jilted party to actually turn over the foul policy underlying these decisions, sir, which actually gifts far too much of the public estate to this group of property right holders. That's our essential argument. Now, sir, we know that you can test, as the government has learned in the ill-fated Crayford Farm transaction, you can test the legitimacy of the process, so you can test the robustness of the thinking insofar as are you sticking to the black letter meaning of the law. Now, sir, that lies here. Now, the High Court, sir, it must determine in terms of a question of law, but it cannot stray into those areas, sir, which Parliament this afternoon has the ability to fix up. Parliament has the ability to introduce something, sir, that gives a fairer return to the taxpayer who via the state, via the minister, via the apparatus of the Crown, the Commission of Crown Land, etc., is the owner. Now, sir, for as long as we're not going to do this, we're gifting far too much, sir. And I can only think one way that the public might recapture some of that value in the event that they do go and sell, and as a consequence of this very generous level of calculation, sir, we'll probably capture it in our capital gains tax policy after the next election. I can see, sir, that's the only way that the public will enjoy the opportunity of recovering a small part of what has been gifted to this group of people. And sir, that unfortunately lies in the hands of the electors. They may or may not breathe life into that policy. We certainly, sir, are keeping it warm. They will. The man is very prescient. The man is very prescient behind me. He can see well into the future. Now, sir, I want to take us also, given that this is a free-ranging debate, we're kind of on rule part one. Sir, this piece of legislation, as you would know, I'm directing that great Taranaki farmer, inheritor of fine Mount Egmont intellect. He basks, sir, in the history of Inglewood, New Plymouth. We, of course, think of Ngamotu, Taranaki, but that's another matter, sir. I direct his attention to section 23N, where, sir, this bill, and this happens all the time, operationalises the ability, sir, of the Governor-General, upon advice from the Minister through the Executive Council, to pass regulation. And, sir, that's why this side of the House is constantly reminding participants in the debate that that is where, sir, the real damage will be done. A level of subordinate legislation which we fear will not be subject to wide scrutiny, and, sir, as a consequence of a very cosy relationship and far too much focus on a narrow range of interests, sees this massive vista, this fantastic part of our national identity and national estate disappearing out of public into private. So that's a fair ideological debate to have. And part of the machinery that makes that happen is not only regulation-making power, but the quality of our contributions this afternoon, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Honourable David Parker.
Mr. Chairman, I asked the Minister and the Chair how, when you're running a $12 billion deficit